Hello, hello, hello. This is Tim Ghiorso. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Basketball Podcast for Derrick Rose's Infirmary. Like I said, I'm your host, Tim Ghiorso. And on today's show, there's going to be three main segments. One is going to be my thoughts on the All-Star weekend. Number two is an update of our current matchups, our current playoff and consolation matchups. And number three, we'll be doing a new segment that I like to call Tim's Box Score Breakdown. I'm essentially copying something that Aaron Bruschi does for Hoopball, where he doesn't have it currently right now, but in the past he's had a podcast where he basically goes through the box scores from the night before and kind of tells you, hey, this guy's getting more minutes. Here's why. Here, this guy isn't getting minutes. Here's why. This guy had a bad performance. Here's why. This guy, and his best analysis kind of on the spot with different box scores. So I'm going to be doing my own version of that segment today, and we're going to break down the box scores from Thursday's games. I may even drop in some, ads and drops, which may be detrimental to me because then you might pick up some guy I want. So we'll see. I may leave a few out that I am secretly wanting to avoid that. But for the most part, I think you guys are smart and you guys see what I see and have pretty good analysis. So I don't know if you're like me. I'm religiously looking at the box scores every night. So it's kind of fun for me, and there's a lot of information to be gleaned from the box scores. So that I will be going to that at the end of the show. First off, I wanted to start off with the All-Star game. My thoughts. I enjoyed watching it because I got to watch it with Tyler Brandt, who's in our league, as well as Ronio Chaudhry, who is also another member in our league. Also watched it with a good friend of mine, Big Mike, who also was formerly in our league. And yeah, overall, it was okay. I was disappointed with the skills challenge. I thought that it was way too short. They took, all you have to do is do one pass. They took out the bounce pass. Before they had two passes. You did the through pass and the bounce pass. They took that out. It was just way too short. It was just way too short. Literally 10 seconds and they're done. So really disappointed. Really think they have some work to do to try and add some more skills to that challenge other than one pass, one layup, one three. Make them take a half court shot. Make them just do other things to make it more exciting, make it longer, just because one person screws up once, like Markkanen did in the final round, he missed one pass and it was over because it was so short. You can't make up any time. You can't try to get back on a skill. So I think that was pretty lame for the most part. Really disappointed with that. 3-point competition was better. Enjoyed. I'm a big fan of Devin Booker, so I enjoyed seeing him win it. A lot of the guys did terrible, which I was really surprised. I'm like, you guys are NBA players. You can't take a little bit of pressure. Like Paul George was terrible. Kyle Lowry was terrible. Eric Gordon was just terrible. I was shocked. Like, guys, come on, you're pro NBA players. You practice shooting threes like every day of your lives. Yeah, there's a little bit of pressure, a little bit of spotlight, but I mean, really, it was. So the players' performance was bad. And it was only 2 rounds, which was disappointing. Usually they have a third round where they do a shoot-off between the final 2, but this time they did 1 round, second round with about 3 guys, and that was it. So again, kind of like the skills challenge, they made it really short, and I thought that was really disappointing. I wanted to see one more round of Booker versus, I think it was Clay or Tobias. One of those two he would have matched up against. Make it fun, keep it long. So it was good overall, but still a little bit disappointing. Lastly was the dunk competition, which always is a lot of controversy, and typically, more often than not, aren't good. This was kind of one of those aren't good ones. I'd give it probably about a 6 out of 10 overall. And again, you don't really get the best dunkers in the NBA, right? I mean, it's not cool to really be in the dunk contest anymore. So our best dunkers, like LeBron or Kevin Durant, or these guys who would do great. Russell Westbrook in the dunk competition. Could you believe that? That'd be unreal. They don't It's not cool. So they don't compete. So we get guys like Donovan Mitchell, Dennis Smith Jr., Larry Nance, so-so dunkers. And so, you get so-so slam dunk competitions, which was this one. That's what it was. Not a lot of new dunks. Dennis Smith Jr. had probably the best dunk. He did a really cool new one, but was really disappointed that they didn't put him through to the next round. I think it should have been him and Mitchell in the final, not Nance. Nance, I'll give him credit. His dunks were very smooth and well done, but they were just regurgitating old stuff. There's nothing new. He did all the same dunks that have been done before. And, I mean, considering his size and his arm length, I mean, it's not that impressive, some of those dunks. Much more impressive for Mitchell and Smith, who are shorter wingspan, to do some of the dunks they did than what Nance was doing. So, pretty lame overall. Yeah. I know it sounds kind of pessimistic, but I think that it's just the reality of when you don't have the best dunkers in the dunk competition, when you don't have Aaron Gordon, when you don't have Zach LaVine, when you don't have LeBron James or Kevin Durant or Russell Westbrook or guys that really are the best dunkers in the NBA, you're going to have so-so dunk competitions. So maybe one day it'll be cool. It'll be cool enough to where the big names will want to do it, but who knows? Now, the best part of the All-Star weekend was the All-Star game itself, which was by far the best All-Star game we've ever had. Obviously, we had a new format where the two leading vote getters got to select a team, pickup style, kind of like you would at the local park. And it was really fun, man. It was still pretty high scoring, and there were still a lot of moments where guys let other guys blow by to the lane, or there wasn't really a closeout on a three-point shot. So it kind of explains the high-scoring nature of the game. But I never saw that multiple times in a row. It was usually, okay, someone gets blown by, next time down the court. Now, they had a little bit of pride. They shut him down. So other than those momentary lapses of no defense, there was actually, I saw guys boxing out. I saw guys going up and challenging shots. It was kind of interesting, too. I had an observation where it was kind of ugly basketball in a way because, yes, you do have some of the best offensive players in the league in that game, but you also have some of the best and most elite defensive players in the game. And if they're really trying, which they were trying a lot more than in years past, there's kind of actually a lot of ugliness. Guys having to, score in the paint or get and ones, or like actually having to kind of work, and it was kind of ugly at some points is what I noticed, but it was a good ugly because it was they're competing ugly. It wasn't guys just draining sweet open threes and just throwing down dunks. There was an ugliness quality to it, but that kind of showed me that they were actually trying. And that maybe the defensive level was honestly just as high or maybe higher than the offensive level. Because if they had tried the whole time, not let those blow-bys go by, or they actually close on three-point shooters, I think it would be a pretty damn low-scoring game. Because those guys can play some freaking defense when they want to. But overall, I had a great time watching the game. I got to watch it with Ronil. We were actually in the Bay Area at the time, actually at this casino, watched the first half. Relaxed, had a beer, and then went to the Kava bar, which is it's a special root that they make into a liquid that you can drink. It's supposed to be kind of an anxiety reliever. Apparently, it's a really big Indian thing. So Ronil's Indian, his dad's Indian, and so we went to the Kava bar to watch the second half with his dad and his buddies, and it was just all Indian guys pretty much, just watching the game. So I had a great time. I'm looking forward to watching the All-Star game next year. Honestly, was really, really excited about it, and I'm looking forward to hopefully them televising them picking the teams next year, which will be great, because then you can see who's that last pick. Typically when we're playing at the park, I'm always the last pick because I'm the short white guy. So even the Mexicans and the Asians get picked over me. But I just, more of a chip on my shoulder, more to prove. And I think that, probably makes for a better All-Star game too, just because these guys little bit more chip on their shoulder, a little bit more, hey, I was the 6th or 7th selection. Like, I think I should have been a little higher. Kind of gives them a little extra motivation to kind of prove those doubters wrong and play harder. So overall, that was definitely the highlight of the weekend. Everything else was kind of so-so for the most part. All right, next up on the docket, I want to kind of go over the current standings in our league. Right now, me and Ben are kind of doing a scrimmage, if you will. Doesn't have any meaning in anything, but we're playing our players anyway, and so obviously our starts are going to be weird because we're not adhering to a start limit. But it's a close game right now, 6-5. He's winning, but our field goal percentage is within 1%, and our assists are within 1 assist, so it could really go either way on that front. As far as Armin and Tyler, Armin is currently up 7-4 over Tyler, although he does have 2 more starts. Actually, no, 4 more starts. So that kind of explains a little bit of the discrepancies. Hopefully, I know Tyler's had some injury concerns with Ariza being out with a hamstring and Ricky Rubio being out. I think both of those guys, I know Rubio's going to play tonight. Ariza should be back soon, so hopefully Tyler can make up and still get into that 38 start, so that'll still be kind of an even matchup despite his injury concerns. So that one's still not over. And then the other playoff matchup, Blake and Brad, who I'm going to play the winner of this matchup, so I'm definitely have a lot of interest in watching this matchup play out. Blake's actually up 7-3 and only has 1 more start than Brad so far. So this one definitely could go down to the wire. I see a lot of stats that are pretty close. So this will be a one to watch. And either of those teams, I'm not really looking forward to playing either of those teams. Those are both going to be very tough matchups for me. As far as the consolation round, kind of surprisingly, Miguel, what's going on, man? Why are you losing to Connor? 6-5, Connor is beating Miguel in that consolation round. Brent Pierce has a 6-5 lead on Ronil, and Hassam has a 7-3 lead on Scott in the consolation round, which obviously, again, you're playing for that extra lottery chance in the draft, which is going to be huge for next year. It's going to give you a huge advantage if you can get a top 5 pick in next year's draft. So keep fighting. As you know, the consolation actually works a little bit differently than our playoff system. It's not it's not the tournament style. It's actually more of a king of the hill style, where if you lose, you get bumped down. If you win, you get bumped up, and you want to be. There's going to be basically one game at the end that's going to be between the 2 teams that are 1 and 2 on essentially the king of the hill, and that winner will get that extra lottery chance. So keep fighting. Now, for my last segment, we're going to be doing my box score breakdown. So we're going to see how this goes. But I've taken a look at the box scores from last night, and I've kind of picked out a couple key players in each box score that may be of interest to you, whether someone to maybe pick up or maybe a trend that could continue, may not continue. Obviously, you have the final say. This is just my analysis, my opinion. We're going to start off with Brooklyn and Charlotte. Charlotte beat Brooklyn 111-96 last night. Not surprisingly, Brooklyn is kind of one of those teams they're trying to win, but they still can't win because they don't get their pick anyway. So there's no real incentive to lose, but they just don't have a good team. And I don't really like the way they play either. I don't really see the whole we're going to be super fast paced all the time really be something that works. It's more of a like the Sixers used it a lot because it inflated everybody's stats, and then it was easier to trade guys. You could trade Michael Carter-Williams because he was 7 steals a game, but obviously they have 30 more possessions per game than other teams because of their pace and jacking up threes within 5 seconds. So not surprisingly, most outlier team had more possessions and therefore more opportunities for Carter-Williams to get steals.
Dante Cunningham
or so-and-so. So it just kind of inflates stats, which it's great if you own one of these players.
4 3-pointers.
This is a big outlier if you're a GM just trying to evaluate and make trades.
Game, played actually more minutes.
But essentially from that
minutes.
game,
6 points,
couple
7 boards.
that's Dante Cunningham. That's been his MO for pretty much his entire career. So this is a major outlier game. I think he'll go back to his normal ways of single-digit scoring and a few rebounds very soon. Some other notables from that game. The Nets actually opted to start 3 guards in this one. They started Dinwiddie, Crabbe, and D'Angelo. There was talk of reports actually of D'Angelo getting more playing time and actually playing with Dinwiddie more often, which is kind of what we saw. He started at the 2 guard, played 32 minutes, so he should definitely see 30-plus minutes from here on out, with Dinwiddie 33 minutes, also seeing 30-plus minutes, and they'll be on the floor quite a bit together. So if you are a D'Angelo Russell owner, that is great news. And again, they are a team that is very fast-paced, so both Dinwiddie and Russell could probably have starting point guard numbers, even though one is a shooting guard, one's point guard, just because they go through so many possessions. Dinwiddie had a nice night too, 12 points, 9 assists, 35% field goal percentage. That's his one big area of weakness, is just a poor field goal percentage and really a lack of three-pointers. Not really much of a shooter, but does have those low turnovers, which it's definitely rare to find the point guards that don't turn the ball over, such as a Darren Collison as well, being another one of those players. Crabbe, 31 minutes, 11 points, kind of doing his normal low shooting, a couple of threes. Now, Karis LeVert and Rondé Hollis-Jefferson are both out, and I think once both of those guys return, I think you'll see a reduction of Allen Crabbe's minutes. I think you'll also see a huge reduction of Quincy Acey's minutes, who played 24 minutes, didn't do much with them. I think you also see a decrease in DeMarre Carroll's minutes as well, because Hollis-Jefferson can play so many different positions. I myself nabbed up Hollis-Jefferson because I think that he's going to be a solid option for me in the playoffs. Can contribute pretty much everywhere except for threes. Good percentages, low turnover guy, and again, very fast-paced system, so lots of stats galore, even if he doesn't see 30 minutes a game. LeVert, on the other hand, tougher time to see value now that D'Angelo is back in the fold, but I think he'll take away some of Allen Crabbe's minutes. So keep an eye out for that. On Charlotte, Kemba Walker did his normal Kemba Walker things, 31 points, 7 assists. Much better field goal percentage than normal, 54%. He's usually a pretty low field goal percentage player, so that is a nice boost for owners. Now, no one else did anything really notable. The Hornets are one of those box scores that you can kind of already know what you're seeing before you see it. They typically, the same players play the same amount of minutes, typically see the same amount of stat lines. They're very consistent, and so therefore, from a box score perspective, not that exciting. Not that much of a must look at. I will say the Willie Hernangomez, who left the Knicks to get more playing time, or didn't really leave. He wanted to get traded, did get traded. Only saw a minute 23 of action, so he's probably still pretty frustrated not getting the playing time. Probably not going to be till next season and beyond that we actually see him get playing time. Now, Mr. Blake Richardson, your boy Malik Monk, who I was not a fan of on draft day. I was glad the Kings did not draft him. I thought he was a poor man's J.R. Smith. Played a minute 23 and missed a shot. So far, he has not lived up to his draft positioning. Next up on the docket, we have the New York Knicks and the Magic, two sort of teams looking to tank. It's kind of like that one episode of South Park where the two T-ball teams are trying to lose, and Butters is a star player because he sucked. No, everyone's mad at him because he's doing so well when they really want him to lose, which is hilarious. Actually, sorry. He is doing so bad that, you know what? Gosh dang it, I'm blanking on that. I just know that they're both teams are trying to lose in that episode, and it's hilarious. So give that one a watch. Anyway, the Knicks pulled out the victory, 120 to 113. Now, the Knicks are a very interesting box score due to their current situation. Now that they are a tanker and not a contender, they have made some big adjustments. For example, Jarrett Jack is no longer receiving playing time. He was a DMP. Courtney Lee only played 14 minutes and is going to have his minutes cut going forward. A lot of veterans losing minutes, and their three guards are really the most interesting thing to watch. Tim Hardaway and Beasley are probably your safest options. Same with Kyle O'Quinn, getting around 20 minutes a game. Same with Cantor as well, getting, you'd think, about 25 to 30 minutes a game. Only played 21 minutes in this one, which is a bit surprising, but still managed to pull off a double-double with 12 and 12. But Moutier, Ntilikina, and Burke are going to be what to watch for on a night-to-night basis, box score-wise, to see kind of what cream rises to the crop. Moutier was a starter, but underperformed, 8 points, 4 assists in 22 minutes. Ntilikina, 30 minutes, 7 points, 2 assists, a steal, a couple blocks. He's been pretty much underperforming all year, and there are also reports that he's struggling as a rookie due to all the travel and a little injury trouble. I don't see him honestly being a factor this season. He's just too young, too raw. He's going to need some time to develop. So I think the two you're really looking at is either Burke or Moutier to see which one kind of takes over. Right now, I'd put my money on Burke. He's still young, but has been around the league quite a few years. I read a story about him really kind of dedicating himself and working his butt off to try and get better as a player. If I were to pick up anyone out of those three, it'd be Burke at this point. I think that he's young enough to where they'll play him and is doing well enough and has the veteran experience enough to actually play well. But I think it could still fluctuate quite a bit on a night-to-night basis, which of those three guys kind of do well. Now, for the Magic, it was an interesting game because Vucevic came back and Gordon came back, and they both played about 25 minutes. I think you'll see more minutes. I think you'll see around 30, low 30s to 30 from here on out. They're not going to want to overplay him because, again, they're a tanking team, and you might see some DMPs every now and then. So you're going to have to deal with that. But overall, should be safe at about 30 minutes a game going forward. Both should return to being really solid options. Vucevic in 24 minutes had a great game, 19 points, 6 boards, 2 steals, 2 blocks, right where he left off, dominating. He was a top 20 guy before he got hurt. Gordon came back, not a great stat line, but some contributions everywhere, 9 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. So not bad, poor shooting. He started off the year really hot with over 40% from three-point range, but that has dropped off significantly as the season has gone along. So he may not be quite what he was before, but still a solid option. You'll see a lot of young guys playing. Wes Windu getting 20 minutes. I'm waiting to see if they're going to play Rashad Vaughn more and kind of see what they have. They signed him to a 10-day contract. He's a young guy, kind of bounced around a little bit, but I actually got to watch him in Summer League, and he tore it up for, I think, 30, 35 points, which I was very upset about because in that particular game, I had money on the Nets and Karis LeVert in that Summer League game, and Rashad Vaughn destroyed that, and I lost money on that one. By the way, you guys should go to Summer League. It's unreal and amazing and so much fun. If anyone wants to go, we're going. You'll absolutely love it. It's a blast. Jonathan Isaac should be returning soon. And the other one to watch that I really was curious was Mario Hezonja, who's been playing really well with no Gordon because him and Gordon kind of played the same position. They're both stretch fours. Now, Hezonja still got 27 minutes, 15 points, 2 steals, 2 assists, so definitely worth hanging on to him. He should at least get 25 minutes from here on out going forward, even with Gordon. And I think he'll, for the most part, keep it up, even if he's not in his best position. And again, this is a tanking team, so they have every incentive to play Hezonja and see what they have. Next on the docket is the Wizards and the Cavaliers. Wizards pulled out the victory. Was really surprised seeing the stat line with how poorly the Cavs players played. Other than LeBron and Tristan had an okay game, 12 and 9. Rodney Hood, 8 points in 27 minutes. Jordan Clarkson, only 17 minutes, 9 points. Larry Nance, 6 points in 16 minutes. George Hill played 31 minutes, 6 points, 3 assists, and a steal. 20% from the field. So really just a bad game overall for a lot of Cleveland players. I expect them to play a lot better than that. Maybe they still need some more time to gel. I'm not sure. I would still hang on to guys like Hood and Clarkson. I'm considering dropping Nance because I just can't take inconsistent lines like that, which is what he's kind of known for, because he just never seems to get the recognition to be a starter and get 30-plus minutes a night. But I might hang on to him for now because I do expect better lines. I think it was just a bad overall game for the Cavs. So expect better going forward. Washington, on the other hand, continues to play well without John Wall. Thomas Satoransky, who I just recently picked up, had an amazing line. This is exactly why I picked him up. He is not much of a scorer, but he did manage 17 points, 8 assists, 2 steals, 85% from the field, 100% from the free throw line, no turnovers. That's why I picked up Thomas Satoransky. He gets you the steals, doesn't turn the ball over, very selective with his shooting, so his field goal percentage is high, just efficient all the way around. So I loved seeing this from him, and I'm excited to use him in the next round. Kelly Oubre, 32 minutes, 17 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals. He could be picked up, but again, he's been pretty inconsistent, and his shooting is pretty poor. If you can stomach the poor shooting, I think he's definitely worth a pickup. He should get 25 to 30 minutes nightly from here on out. He does still have some inconsistency issues, but honestly, not a bad player. No turnovers from either. Porter did his Porter things. Bradley Beal, 9 assists. He's been really dishing out a lot more assists lately, and his usage rate is a lot higher. He's essentially been the guy without Wall. He's got the highest usage rate on the team during that game. Another interesting note, this probably isn't relevant in our league. It's not quite deep enough, but Ian Mahinmi has been massively outplaying Marcin Gortat and saw 4 more minutes than Gortat, 8 points, 5 boards. I tried to get him in my Dynasty League, but wasn't able to. 2014 League, Dynasty League, by the way. So probably like, why are you guys fighting for him in a Dynasty League? He's like 30, but no, it's 24 teams. So guys like Ian Mahinmi are pretty valuable. Gortat is pretty much just being phased out. I mean, you think about it, he just doesn't fit today's NBA. He can't space the floor. He's older, so his defense isn't as good, not as good as a rim protector. And just, he was great in the old NBA. Today's NBA, it's not looking good for him. So that's your breakdown of that one. Next game on the docket, Philly and Chicago. This one went down to the wire. Philly won 116 to 115. Kind of surprising that Philly would just barely be able to beat out a kind of a tanking team in Chicago, who is decided just to bench actually 2 of their starters all year. They benched Robin Lopez and they benched Justin Holiday, who have been 2 top 100 guys this year and consistent starters who may not be seeing very much playing time from here on out. May actually become droppable. Lopez has quoted saying that he will be back, but things are not looking good for those guys, at least for the next few games. Now, the big stat line of the line in this one was Bobby Portis, who had 38 points. I recently dropped him, so I'm a little disappointed. He was definitely the highest usage player by a long stretch, played 33 minutes. So I'm definitely regretting dropping him at this point, because as long as, Holiday and Lopez remain out, he's going to be one of the main guys who's going to get a lot of playing time and get a lot of usage. He's definitely a guy you want to own. Unfortunately, doesn't really contribute a lot in the steals and blocks, just mainly points, rebounds. Although he did have 6 3-pointers, which is pretty nice. David Nwaba, who got the start again with the Bulls, benching some of their normal guys. 33 minutes, 21 points, 9 boards, a steal and a block, 64% from the field. He's definitely someone who I'm looking at as potential pickup. Unfortunately, the free throw percentage is going to hurt you, but he has put up some pretty good defensive numbers in his time on the floor, and we'll see if this remains, this kind of experiment the Bulls are doing with playing these guys heavy minutes. It may or may not last. I'm not 100% sure, so I'm still a little bit wary, but I think if you can stomach the free throw percentage and you have a you don't like. For me, I only have one more pickup this week, so I'm kind of saving it. But if you haven't really used your pickups this week, why not take a chance on David Nwaba? I don't think it's a bad pickup at all. Valentine, 25 minutes, 8 points, 4 assists, not great. Cameron Payne, who again isn't really going to be relevant in our league, but for other deeper leagues, he is now seeing a lot of time as the backup point guard. 7 points, 7 assists. Kind of read a report about him recently about how when he came to the Bulls last year, it was such a different team, and they were competing for a playoff spot, and he felt like it was very awkward for him, and he was also injured, and so he was expecting a much better performance out of himself this time around, now that he is healthy, and just the team is a lot different. So he had a nice little game for reserve, very solid, something to look at in deeper leagues. Zach LaVine, big game again, 23 points, 5 3-pointers. Again, no surprises here. Noah Vonleh, actually their acquisition at the deadline, ended up getting 17 minutes, 7 boards. He's pretty much just a rebounding specialist. The flops on the night were Chris Dunn and Lauri Markkanen. Chris Dunn, only 5 points on 18% shooting, 5 assists. Lauri Markkanen, 32 minutes, 12% shooting, only 3 points, 8 boards. Those guys will be better. Those guys will be a lot better from here on out. Those are just big flops by them. They will come around. So if you're a Justin Holiday owner or Robin Lopez owner, life kind of sucks for you right now. Not gonna lie. As far as the Sixers, Joel Embiid, massive night, 30 points, 13 boards, 5 assists, 3 steals, 4 blocks. And only 1 turnover. I'm not looking forward to playing Blake Richardson in the next round if he wins, because I will have to go against Joel Embiid, and I'll basically be losing the blocks category. I can almost guarantee that one, as long as he plays. Ben Simmons, another massive night for him, 32 points, 7 rebounds, 11 assists, a steal and a block, 72% from the field. Only downside was that 54% from the free-throw line with 11 attempts. 2 turnovers, which is you'll take that from Simmons. I traded him early in the year because I couldn't stomach the 3-throw percentage, and the turnovers were killing me. But monster night from him. Covington, another single-digit scoring game on 33% from the field. He's been kind of struggling. A lot of single-digit scoring games. He's always been a low field goal percentage guy. I just don't think there's enough shots to go around in Philly anymore for him to really be much more than a couple of threes and some defensive numbers. TJ McConnell, 24 minutes, 9 points, nothing else really. Again, probably not going to be good enough to own in our format. Just doesn't quite have the consistency to really pull off stat lines that are going to be useful in our league. Marco Bellinelli, got a lot of playing time again in his second game for Philly, 25 minutes, but unfortunately 20% from the field, so he struggled. But he's been actually seeing quite a few minutes, although again, not fantasy relevant for our league, just because he's just points and threes with 20 to 25 minutes, just not enough probably to get it done in our league. JJ Redick in a bit of a shooting slump recently, only shot 30% tonight, 14 points. Sarge has been pretty consistent, 13 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, 45% from the field. Doesn't look like Markelle Fultz will ever return. So otherwise, I think the only real thing you got to look out for is if anything happens to Embiid, you want to grab Rashawn Holmes, who didn't get to play at all, but is a monster when he does get to play fantasy-wise. But until something happens to Embiid, he will not get to play. Next up on the docket, we have the Thunder and the Kings. The Thunder were able to just narrowly defeat the Kings with a game-winning shot by Russell Westbrook to win 110-107. Kind of sad, honestly, that the OKC Thunder continues to struggle and barely beat bad teams like the Kings, who you should probably kill. Paul George, massive night, 7 rebounds, 8 assists, 26 points. Steven Adams, 18 and 11 with 4 blocks. Carmelo even shot well, which is not normal, shot 47%, 7 3-pointers, got really hot. Westbrook, triple-double, although only shot 28% from the field, which is probably why it was so close. None of the bench are really relevant as far as fantasy-wise. Even if they did get starting roles, not really enough there. I think Felton would be addable if something were to happen to Westbrook. And I think Felton would get a lot of run. But otherwise, no one else really stands out. far as the Kings go, this was very odd because Jaeger had said before the break that they were going to always bench at least 2 veterans in order to play the young guys. Just call this the vets game. We had Zach Randolph play 40 minutes, scored 29 points, 12 rebounds. Vince Carter played 30 minutes, 13 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Garrett Temple played 34 minutes, 13 points, 6 assists. So, yeah, so much for benching the vets. Those guys got a lot of playing time in this one. And our young guys, such as Frank Mason, 13 minutes, Cauley Stein, 22 minutes, Scal, 26 minutes, Justin Jackson, 26 minutes, Bogdan, only 18 minutes. What are we doing? Not sure what we're doing here. We need to be playing those young guys. So it was the vets' night. Maybe they're all well rested from the break, so Jaeger decided to throw them out there. I don't know. Like to see more minutes from Frank Mason. Like to see more minutes from Cauley Stein. Scal got more minutes this time. Did okay. 10 points, 2 rebounds, 2 blocks. Justin Jackson continues to struggle. 26 minutes, but only 4 points, 28% from the field. Bogdan was the biggest surprise. He's been incredibly consistent, but just had 18 minutes, 4 points. So he should bounce back. I'm not sure about anybody else. Jackson hasn't been good. Scal hasn't really been good. Willie has been ownable, but very inconsistent. It's tough to be a Kings fan right now. De'Aaron Fox sat this game out, so he should be back soon. Hopefully. Last box score to break down the Clippers, Golden State. This one was a pretty high-scoring affair, 134 to 127. DeAndre Jordan, doing his normal thing, has been seen an increase in scoring since the Blake Griffin trade. 16 points, 14 boards, 3 steals, and a block. And actually took 6 free throws, hit all of them. So only downside of his line was the 4 turnovers. But otherwise, pretty fantastic line for him. Tobias Harris had a great game, 22 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 63% from the field. He's been even better than he has been on the Pistons. Lou Williams, 21 and 12 for him. Great night. Montrezl Harrell continues to do pretty well in limited minutes, 15 points in just 16 minutes. Obviously, probably still not ownable in our league, but somebody who, if he ever got more minutes, he would probably be a monster. Ty Wallace, 19 minutes, 8 points, 3 assists, 2 steals. I mentioned him because I actually really like him, and I'm trying to add him in my Dynasty League right now because he's only a rookie, and he's actually proven to be pretty good defensively, and if you can play defense in this league, you can last in this league. I'm trying to grab him. And this one, Avery Bradley sat out, so that's why you saw Milos as the starter with Austin Rivers at the 2. Usually, Austin Rivers would be the 1, and Bradley would be the 2, but Milos got some more run in this one, 27 minutes, 14 points, 2 assists. Wouldn't go rushing the wire for him. He's high turnover, low field goal percentage guy. Doesn't really help out a lot of teams. Rivers is ownable, but again, low shooting percentage oftentimes. This time he actually did okay with 50%. Gallo, 15 points, 2 assists, 33%. That's pretty typical for him, the bad shooting. Interesting is Avery Bradley is, apparently there are reports that this groin injury is going to linger quite a bit. So this may not be the only missed game you see from him. So that is something to keep an eye on. That would definitely increase the values of like Ty Wallace or Milos. Last team on the night. This is another team that you almost don't need to check their box score because it's typically pretty boring and pretty consistent. And that's the Warriors. Steph Curry, huge night, 44 points, 10 assists, 6 boards, 2 steals, 8 3-pointers, was just on fire, just hitting everything. He's changing the game. The game is so much different now because of Steph Curry. I don't always think it's a good thing because I've never been a shooter myself. I've always been a guy who's had to really work to earn my points, getting in the paint, driving to the paint, taking contact, post-game, mid-range. So it's to see a guy be able to hit 3-pointers with the ease that Curry does, it's makes a player like me kind of, disappointed because I know that there's a lot of hard work that goes into that skill being developed, but as far as during the game, it's effortless. It's so easy. It doesn't take a lot of energy. You just get a screen, come off it, hit a three. Walk up the court, hit a three. Whereas someone like me is having to drive to the paint, take contact, get rebounds, and just get 2 points instead of 3. It's pretty demoralizing when you go up the court, battle some guy, able to get the 2-pointer, guy walks up the floor, hits a 3-pointer, gets 3 points. You're like, man, this sucks. Anyway, good for him and good for Curry, good for his owners especially. Massive night. Kevin Durant doing his normal thing, 8 assists, 24 points, couple of blocks. He's been a revelation with the blocks this year. Very consistent with that. Draymond Green, his normal thing, just contributes everywhere. A couple steals, block, 6 assists, 8 rebounds. Just doesn't score a lot, but pretty much just contributes across the board. Klay Thompson, more just scoring in threes for the most part, but good percentages. Always gets a lot of good shots in that system. Nobody on the bench is really relevant. Iggy has really actually had a huge drop-off this year as far as production. His three-point percentage has dropped nearly, I think, 80% or more than it was last year, which is one of the big reasons why the Warriors are looking to add a bench piece. Their bench has just not been the same as it was last year, which makes them a little bit vulnerable. All right, well, that is your box score breakdown. I hope you got some interesting insight from these different games and kind of what to look out for. Again, the biggest things to watch out for are that the Knicks guards and seeing which one rises to the top, because that may be worth a pickup. The other, probably most important thing would be keep an eye on with Hollis Jefferson and LeVert back, how that affects the Nets' rotations. And keep an eye on those Cavs. I think they'll rebound. But other than that, and of course the Bulls. Gosh, the Bulls are crazy. The Bulls are going to be fun to watch as far as just the box score, because we'll see if they keep doing this whole where we're benching Lopez and Holiday, and we're just playing guys like Nwaba and Portis. They're going to be something you want to keep an eye on each night and see what kind of changes Hoiberg makes, and if they continue this or if they bring back those guys. It'll be interesting. So that's your box score breakdown. Other big news recently, obviously, you may have heard about Kawhi Leonard, and he just essentially doesn't want to play anymore. That's the way I look at it, at least. He's been cleared that he's healthy enough to play. I don't know if he still feels that he's injured and he can't, but from my perspective, it just seems like he just doesn't want to play for the Spurs anymore, which is pretty sad, to be honest. I've had a lot of respect for Kawhi over the years, but this is something that just makes me feel very like I've definitely lost respect for Kawhi. If it's true that he is healthy enough to play and he's just choosing not to because he's, butthurt about the way he's been treated on the Spurs or whatever, I just think it's pretty lame and just really hanging your teammates out to dry who've been working hard all year to maintain that 3rd seed. And I don't think they're going to beat the Rockets or the Warriors, but they could make some noise, and they need him to make any noise. They're going to be, I could see them being one and done in the playoffs without Kawhi. So pretty disappointed by what, if my information is correct and he could play and he's not, it's kind of sad and a little bit disappointed in him and just as a person, And I'd be disappointed as a teammate too. I'd just be very disappointed. And another kind of interesting note, Zach Lowe recently has come out talking about how the NBA might go to a play-in game where kind of similar to the NCAA tournament play-in game for the playoffs, which is kind of funny because we in our league have a play-in game for ours. So, maybe we're a little ahead of the curve as far as different competition type stuff. So I thought that was kind of funny when I heard that. Like, oh, we already have that in our league. But we will see if that gains any traction. Now, lastly, before I go, I love, obviously, doing podcasts. Also love listening to podcasts, and I wanted to recommend a few podcasts for you. Those of you who enjoy listening to podcasts, I would highly recommend them. They are fun. Kind of better than listening to music in a lot of ways, because you actually get more information, and it's relaxing, and I like it. But a couple ones I want to spotlight are JJ Redick's podcast is really good. He's really very well spoken, has a lot of good guests. It's not always just sports related. Sometimes he'll have directors on or non-sports people to interview and talk about other things than just basketball. I would highly recommend that one. Adrian Wojnarowski has a podcast. He usually has a lot of good guests. So, like DeMar DeRozan will come on, or the GM of this team will come on, or whatnot. So that's a good one. Zach Lowe has his own podcast. He's one of my favorite writers and favorite podcasters. He usually has some pretty good guests. They mainly talk NBA, which I'm fine with. He actually has really good articles too, where he does shows a lot of video and breaks down a lot of really cool stuff. So highly recommend Zach Lowe. My other favorite ones, The Herd by Colin Cowherd is probably my all-time favorite. And it's kind of the reason why I do a lot of the podcast by myself, is because a lot of Colin, I kind of emulate my podcasting style off Colin Cowherd. And he does have a co-person who chimes in every now and then. His kind of people who are working the audio and stuff will chime in here and there, and he'll chat with them. But for the most part, it's his voice, and you're hearing him, and I kind of like that style. So I do want to have some people on, though, that's for sure, and do some interviews. He does still bring on a lot of people to interview. So I highly recommend that one. And then a non-kind of sports-related one that I really like recently, it's called Something You Should Know. Really good podcast. They have really good guests. They talk about all sorts of psychological things and why people do stuff and just stuff you should know. And I would highly recommend those podcasts to you. All right, well, that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you tune in next week. Would love any critique or feedback from you. If you have it, I'm always looking to make the pod better. And I wish I was more of a person that was good with technical stuff. I'd create my own intro and stuff like that, which I probably will do eventually. But I'm not the greatest with that, to be honest. I'm not a big fan of the tedious. I love doing videos, doing stuff like this, but then like the tedious nature of all the technology stuff and editing is the stuff I don't typically like doing as much. It's too tedious. It takes too long. But I would still like to have somebody on. So if you're interested in coming on the show, let me know. Let's work out a time and date. I know that I recently found out that we can do a Google Hangout, and I can record the Google Hangout and use that as the podcast. Hopefully you have a decent mic. That's kind of the holy grail of podcasting, is you got to have good audio, number one. Even if your content isn't good, if your audio sucks, you're already on the wrong foot. So hopefully, if I do interview one of you, which I probably will on a Google Hangout, hopefully you have a decent mic, so doesn't sound just terrible just with the computer audio. But we'll see. So let me know if you're interested. We'll work out a time and date, and we'll have you on for an interview. We talk fantasy, talk whatever you want, discuss some things. All right, well, I've talked long enough. You guys have a good one. I will see you next time.